Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's session. It is digital illustration backgrounds with illustrator and cartoonist Jeff Wilson. My name is Tom Sternad. I'm the lead digital artist of the Creator Space. So again, thanks for joining us on what is a nice Saturday. But good news is you can rewatch this. So if you get the urge and you need to go outside, you please know you can rewatch this and take notes after as well. So yeah, that's the great thing. So welcome everyone. I want to thank all of our partners in this project. So we have our Canada Council for the Arts. Then we have our library partners: Blue Mountains Public Library, Collingwood Public Library, Wasaga Beach Public Library, and also Jeff Wilson for doing these workshops with us. So really happy to have him here with us. In terms of Jeff's work, you can catch it. He has posts his comics. Really good comics to have a look at during these tough pandemic times. Gives you a good laugh. Just to help us get through it. So really appreciate that too. So Jeff's demonstrating with the ProCreate software that's available on iPads. It's not an expensive piece of software. It's about, I think it's $25 or so, and then about $10 for the iPhone. There's a ProCreate Pocket version as well for the iPhone, which is cool. So the reason we've chosen these apps and to demonstrate them is that you can get these and then work on these on your own devices as well. If you need to access an iPad, we have iPad Pro with Apple Pencil, just like what Jeff is using for the demonstration at the Blue Mountains Public Library. So if you're a member there, you can take it out with your library card, just like you can a book. So we really encourage that. Check it out and then try out some of the techniques that we'll be going over. So today's really exciting. It will be a whole session on backgrounds and how does that fit into the drawing, cartooning, illustration. So multifaceted in terms of what it can be used for. So yeah, without any further ado, I'm going to pass it over to Jeff. So here's Jeff.
And thank you, Tom, and welcome everybody to another session. I hope you enjoy this one. This is something that it's often overlooked in comics, especially, and in certainly it has been in the past in animation. And well, it's just something that is a very basic thing that we take for granted as we look at comics and animation, but it really is a skill all its own. And portraying the backgrounds is a skill all its own. And I'm just going to start off by having a little chat to you about what I aim to do as I do backgrounds and as I do comics and how they fit into my work. And that was, I go back to a session that I took back when in my early cartooning days. I took the cartooning class at Sheridan College in Oakville, and my class was the very last of that course at Sheridan, and we had the good fortune of having a man named Will Eisner come in to demonstrate for us in the class. And it's funny how I was about 18 years old, and I didn't really know who Will Eisner was. I was pretty ignorant. I grew up on a farm in this part of Grey County where I live now, and was going to high school, and not a lot of people were interested in had the same interests as I did with the cartooning and comics in particular. But he mentioned something that he tried to do in his work, and that was make the background as simple as possible. Just tell the reader where you are. You don't have to go into a lot of detail. Just say, this is our character is here. The character is the main focus of your story. So the background should just basically augment the story. It doesn't have to tell its own story unless it is important enough to the story to have all the detail in it. And that it often is the case in a comic. But for the most part, they usually are augmenting the story. So they can help to tell the story if they're told properly. But his advice was keep it simple. So, and that's hard. That's a real hard challenge, and it's something that you can practice, and that's what we're going to aim to do today. And I'm going to try to show you how you can make it, make your backgrounds good, but teach you a few tricks on how to keep it simple. Just use just use the basic elements of the background. So I'm just going to switch my camera here back to my iPad, and we're going to, here you'll see my screen here, background. So I'm just going to take it off the main screen here, and we're going to start off with this Farmscape drawing, which I have here. And so what I have here is a kind of a field of grain. So let's go back to here. I'm just taking it a bit, show you some of the stuff here. It's just a basic drawing of, or it's actually a photograph that I've taken off of Google, and I've just put it into the here. And that's what you can do. You can just go into Google. I can even show you how to do it. Go into Google Chrome here, and you've got, if you say, oh, I'd like to get something like this here, this house, you can click on that with your finger, and it opens up a menu here. And what I'm going to do is copy image, and then take it over to ProCreate here and create a new layer. Go over to my gallery, to my wrench setting here, and right at the bottom of that menu, you'll see the word paste, and it'll paste it right on there. So you can expand that with your fingers, and you've created a new layer there. So this is something you can do to start with. It's pretty simple, and you can just give yourself a bit of a base for what you do. So what I found about ProCreate is that you can do this, create a new layer on top of it, and open it up, and you can see I've been sketching here with this, and I've been kind of testing it. And this is what you really, the good thing about this program is you can painlessly practice just drawing over top of this image, not even necessarily tracing it, just kind of, what is the look I'm trying to achieve here. And so I'm going to take it from drawing to the, let's see, try to take it from painting down to the sketching. We get a nice sketching line here. So let's try the Derwent and try to get some nice line here. Get a fairly wide brush here, and then we'll just kind of start to draw. Try to reproduce this this image here. Let's give ourselves some blue so that it's not overpowering our pencil here. And so we're trying to kind of duplicate the what we're seeing on screen here. Well, let's even change that. I'm not liking let's increase the darkness there. There we go. It's making it a purple, but that's I'm getting the pencil effect I want better. And the wheat field here, as we can see, we can just gently reproduce that. I'm not liking that. Let's try the ProCreate pencil. I've had lots of success with the ProCreate pencil here. And okay, so you can see what I'm doing here. I'm just kind of trying to reproduce this dark, light and dark effect. And that's what you'll find if you're trying to reproduce the background and keep it simple. If you could reproduce a bit of the light and the dark effect, and we spoke a bit about lighting. For those of you who joined last week, we did some lighting in a cartoon, and this is really taking us a little a direction that you can use it in your comics. And we'll get a bit of the effect here. And then I'm just going to, for a second here, to take that background part away, the Farmscape away. And you can see that I've kind of, you can see a basic outline of what I did earlier and how I did it now. So you're getting most of the elements there, but it's not overpowering what might be in the foreground. I might try to just do a little drawing with the figures here in this next layer, and just to give you an idea how that might look. So I'll just do a kind of a thumbnail of some cartoon characters here. Just going to increase that pencil a bit there, and let's make it a bit thicker here. Yeah, let's make it a bit thicker, the drawing here. And you can still tell going on in the background without it overpowering what's going on in the foreground. So you still have your figures here, and you can increase the line width, and you can even use the light direction that you've had here as well, and create that effect into your cartoon too, and it sort of continually adds to the effect of it. So there's your kind of your layout of your drawing, and let's go back to the Farmscape drawing. You can even add to that as you need to probably be darker here, and the stalks of the wheat here, add to that. So even if you have your foreground, you can also help develop your background as well, concurrently, so at the same time, which is great. So you can sort of tell what's going on. It's not the downtown Toronto or New York City. It's a farm somewhere. Could be in Grey County, could be in Simcoe County, could be anywhere in any area. But you kind of get the feel from just those few touches, and so that's and then of course you add the color later. And I haven't got a color example, but you do have your reference here from here, so you can use that as a color reference as well. And you could say you're cheating, but you're really not, because you're creating something different. It's basically a means toward an end. You're creating a comic strip, so you've got a totally different thing altogether. So there's your figures there in a separate layer. If you didn't like that, you could say, oh, I don't like that Farmscape background, and create another one. Like, you could decide this is the one you want, and add that as a background, and create some background for that too. That's like a small townscape, and you could do that. Let's try to do that, actually, now that I'm speaking about that. We'll move that down here, move that behind our figures, and we'll just kind of do the same thing. We'll just kind of sketch we're just loosely sketching this out. This isn't going to be, and we can add the details later. We just kind of what you could do is just put you just make it dark in places. With the trees in the backgrounds, I've done this for many years on my average farm strip, and that is to make the leaves look like leaves, but look like a tree, but it isn't really a tree. It just is a bunch of lines and dots, and it really isn't that. And the grass, it's just basically lines making it look like blades of grass, and you can show ravines and that sort of thing by doing some lines here. It's a hydro pole. You can put that in there as well. These trees here, you can just add some lines and some circles to show the branches and the leaves coming at once. Just remember again, you're trying to create the ambiance of the strip. It isn't going to be or of your cartoon or of your drawing. And there's an idea of what that would look like. Let's take our figures off here as well. So you could tighten that up a bit, just clean up some of the lines, and but there you go. You got the basic look that you want there, and it's just basically cleaning up the lines using. Let's show you a bit of that too. That we could create a new layer. This is the great thing about it, is that you can, at one time you would have to work on the same surface all the time. And that, which was great, but you wouldn't necessarily always get the, there was always problems with that. Let's see if I can seem to trying to keep the screen visible to you. Let's use a straight edge for this. I think keep forgetting that I can just take my straight edge here out and put it on the screen and just use that. anyway, if you had the time, you could just clean up this so nicely. And honestly, the time you take to find the ways to make a shortcut of it will help you next time. So again, we don't have to be too fancy here. We just have to make it clear what's happening here. I like the effect of the barn where you can make that this one side, you could just fill it in with a dark line. And gives the effect very, very simply. It's an open door there, hydro pole, etc. So, and once you start adding color and shading, it takes shape quite nicely. Okay, well, let's try another one here. We had the Farmscape, so let's try a Mountainscape here. This will be a fairly challenging one, but not necessarily. It can be. The challenge here is to get the lighting and to make it look like a Mountainscape. We'll just take the Mountainscape layer here, and let's go back to our sketching color here. That would be a nice dark blue. Just like the blue, I don't know why, it just seems to give me a good feel for the drawing. So what we've got here, I've set it up, laid the scene out so that there's peaks to the right here. So it just kind of gives it a nice little layout here, and just sketching in the rocky, rugged outline of the mountains here. And as I'm doing it, I'm trying to find how I can simplify this so that it'll be a good background. And you have to remember that your characters are going to be playing on here too. So you've got to leave enough room for acting, for the characters to act in here too, whether you're doing animation or cartooning. You still have to have some figures on here, or maybe it's an establishing scene for a cartoon you're doing. You just want to have it set up so that everything works in here too. I remember I worked on The Adventures of Teddy Ruxpin, which was a cartoon show back in the 1980s. And a lot of the times the layout artists who had never really been trained in layout, I understand, it was something I just found out very recently, that backgrounds were not something that was trained in Sheridan College course. That was something that came about much later. And a fellow who I really admired when I worked there, Brian LeMay, had basically set up a course that worked on it. He was a very talented layout artist and animator, and still teaches it. And but I remember we would get scenes where they did a beautiful background, but there's no room for the characters to act because nobody really trained it. So I remember he was very big in teaching that part of it. With comic strips, I found that sometimes no backgrounds were the best, but you had to establish where you were. So just very simple indication of what was going on was really, in a lot of cases, all that was needed. But sometimes you had to have a fairly detailed scene to really show where you were. And at the time, I really enjoyed drawing, so sometimes I would just enjoy spending time at the drawing board creating a nice lavish background that would tell the story. So here, let's have a look see how our background went here. So yeah, you can see we've got a nice background here, the basis of one, and the clouds here, and let's create a layer here for some acting. And I'm just going to change the color to red. I'm just kind of on the spur of the moment kind of changing things. So this could be a character kind of looking back at we're going to have a nice 3/4 view of the character looking at the mountainscape he's climbing here. And again, we can use the lighting that we've already established with the sketch here, and kind of fill in around the spaces that would be darkened by the darkness here. You could put a hat on him or something, a mountain climber hat. And there you got that. So you and I think even have a hand here with a walking stick or something, a hiking stick in it, showing that, hey, look what I did. Look where I climbed. So it's good for something like that as well. And of course you would tighten up, and we have the reference for the colors right here in this drawing, or sorry, in this photograph. Even that you get it gives you a good balancing of the layout here. You've got the mountains kind of coming up on the left side, and then the character leaning in from the right and giving a nice layout there, kind of a nice movement, kind of toward this way, like he's drawn to the beauty of this scape. So let's go back. So now this will be probably the most challenging one. Will be the cityscape, and this is why I saved it for last, because it will be pretty tricky, and we have a fair bit of detail in this one. So this is where we do our perspective. I guess in this point it would be our 3-point perspective, and I'll show you here what that is. I'm just going to open that layer here, our cityscape picture, and let's see if we can just highlight that. There we go. Just going to use my fingers and reduce that scene down quite a bit here, and show you how we would come up with the perspective lines for this. So a lot of detail here, a lot of trajectories, but you can get the basis of your drawing by just figuring out the perspective of it. So we would have, let's use our red line, because it looks like there's a lot of blue in this cityscape here. We'll take our cityscape drawing. There we go. And we'll take these lines down to where their base would be. And you notice they're intersecting to a point here. So we're getting everything coming to a point as we're coming down here. And we can do it this way too, to a point off here as well. So there'd be, I guess it would be probably this way. So I'm guessing this is where the lines would be intersecting between these 3 points here. So this is your base. And then you have your, up here on your right side, it's your right point and your left point here. So everything in this picture will intersect with these lines, or should. So let's see if they do. That should be the way it works here. Anyway, if you have the 3 lines based, you can do this drawing, and let's create a new layer here for it. So we have quite a lot of detail here. So I'm going to use a black pen here for this one, because it's going to be fairly detailed. I'm afraid I can't use my straight edge, because that's the only way I can figure out how to draw straight lines. If anybody figures out how to do a straight line with just the tools itself, I'd sure appreciate knowing, because anyway, the straight edge seems to be working for me. And again, we're just going to basically do what we need for the scene. It doesn't have to be perfectly detailed. It could be just, I could spend all day creating this, but I just want a nice indicator that this is a city scene, and what time of day it is. So that helps too, to have that. So the lighting should be something that's pretty clear. There we go, that angle. And we're using our 3 points, and this is from an earlier lesson. This is something that you'll, if you're doing comics, studying 3-point perspective, there is no end of material on the internet. There are books. There's a great book called How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way, which taught me a lot of things especially about perspective and backgrounds. There's no end of material that you can access here to create images backgrounds that you need. So we'll just add in some details here. And again, we don't have to be too detailed enough. Tell the story, show the detail for what it is. But we have to show some of the street too. So some of the cars, some of the street scene here. Rectangles for the cars and trucks and buses and everything else in here. Let's get our straight edge out again. So we've got some of the buildings in the foreground here. And that's probably a good place to start at. And we got some billowing smoke or steam from the street, which is a great thing to show as well. Show some of that. We got some great different types of structures here. We got this nice curved building, almost like a dome. It's just amazing here that we can add to, and you can play with the lighting on something like this too. Like you could be getting some of the backlighting here, and then a dark spot here, and kind of showing how it's partly lighted up on this side. So it's fantastic. It really gives for a good effect here. And so there's a building out here. Well, let's just add to that here using our straight edge. Try that again. Oh dear. What happened there? Okay, that can happen too when you get a what did we do there? We think we sent our, we sent our opacity tool way down. That can happen sometimes when you touch the screen with other objects. It can be a real challenge sometimes to do that. So anyway, let's have a look now and see where we are. This is a real challenge, this one. But you can see what we're getting here as we're working on it. We're getting that feel of the perspective there. And our actual image is probably only going to be, let's just use a different color here to show you where the actual photo is here. So our actual photo in this one would actually be this area here. So just give ourselves a little guide as to what our acting area is here. And so we can also take that screen down. Okay, and let's bring this one back up, because it's a pretty good guide as to what we need there. And you can see where we're going with this. And of course, once you have an idea what you're doing there, you can fill in some of these gray areas with gray or color whatever you like. You can add another layer here if you want to, but you could even just create a new layer, and depends on what you need it for. If you need a lot of detail, you could spend a few more hours drawing here, or you could create another layer and just let's get that cityscape up again, and you could just basically take your brush up, fill some of these areas in, just fill in areas that would be against the darkness here, or against the dark part. Looks like it's kind of a backlit scene. You have light on this side. We're just basically filling in the back part of the screen of the scene. And hopefully simplifying it. Because it's not really the story, as I say, it's it's helping it. It's helping it basically to give it that effect. This is the background of the scene you're looking at here. Underneath that line. And again, we're going to take out our, so it's an interesting effect. It might be all you need for your character to act in a scene like that. So, but it is a fair bit of detail, and we could spend a bit more time at it. Actually, you could even probably take some time right now and add some details, some white or whatever. Let's take that. It kind of gives you an effect, and you can add some more details here too, and add some colors as you like. You could maybe add some more gray here. And add details as you like too. You could even take your eraser and make some create some lights or open window effect here in the buildings. Take that down a bit here. Just some dot effects here to get kind of create lights on in the building or whatever. And let's create a. And of course, you would be able to spend more time on this and give it more effect. But I think already you can see the effect. You're getting this cityscape, and we're going to add a sketch here of our character, our main character coming in. It could be a superhero. Let's make it a superhero. Let's give it some. It's a bit big. Flying into the picture. Just make that a little more obvious what's happening here. Looks like a piece of spaghetti's coming out of his leg here. Maybe give him a straight foot here. Here, so there you go. You have your character interacting in your scene, and it's and of course you can fix that up and add to that as you like. But you got the basic sketch there, so there you go. It's let's put a little shading on them too. A little bit of gray here showing the same lighting. Light's obviously backlit here, so we're silhouetting him somewhat. Him, her, they, and there you go. It's put our cityscape back in here and coming into the picture. And it can be, it's not a beautiful drawing yet, but you've got the basis for it. And as I say, this is probably the trickiest part, is to get it to stay simple, to make it look like what it is, but keep it simple. And that's a real challenge. And let's go back to the original Farmscape here. So we had the this drawing of this of the grain field. So I just I put this up, and then I let's see, the grain field Farmscape drawing. So this was basically just tracing what I had there and trying to find the base elements of it. And we did this Farmscape here, and then we did our second one was the this beautiful one of the Farmscape drawing with the house here. So let's see if I can find that one here. So here's that one. So this was the house, and so we had a few buildings in this one, and we had showed some backgrounds there, and it's like a sketch or a painting, and and that's really what you're doing, is you're landscape sketchers and painters do the same thing. They're finding the lines, they're finding the way the light goes on the subject, and then we have I think we had our figures on this one too. Here, the two figures interacting here on this one, and on this Farmscape as well. The Farmscape with the Farmscape with the wheat field, which is really fantastic. How it can help to create a mood for your characters too. And then we've got the light, gives you a nice ambiance for the final drawing, which will come later on. Now let's go to the Mountainscape scene, which we did. Let's take that off the Farmscape drawing, and we'll go to our Mountainscape here. And let's go to here. And this is the one we had our figure here looking at the Mountainscape here, which was, and the lighting really gives you the ambiance here. It tells you this guy's climbing a mountain, and he's got his hat on, and he's just climbed this peak, and he's looking down on where he's climbed from, and he's drawn into it. That beautiful scene there, the mountain that seems to be drawn to your left, and it helps he kind of completes the composition of the drawing too. See, I tend to do these things and just go with what I see, and forget that there's a term for it. There's this composition, the composition of the illustration there. So then we went into this Cityscape, which was I've reduced it here because we were showing you the 3-point perspective, which can help you as you're doing the layout. And it's really very basic stuff. It's you got your base point and your left vanishing point, your right vanishing point, and your horizon line here. That's, I don't think I mentioned that, but that's what that is, your horizon line here. And let's even draw it with this gray line here. So it's the one that goes between these 2 points here. That's your horizon line. Your base is actually would be deep in the center of the earth, and that would be your base point. And so, and what we did then was this was one part of our cityscape, and look at that. I mean, just using that as a reference, that gives you quite a nice effect there. And then we have this line here, which basically showed us the acting area that we had for our star, our character. And then I did draw a little image of a character there. So, and then that's pretty much the lesson. And I would, my final point would be keep it simple, and remember perspective. Remember, and there's lots of reference on the internet for it. And remember the undo tool. that can save you a lot of aggravation. And I think that's pretty much everything.
Perfect. Thanks, Jeff. No, that was fantastic. And yeah, that undo tool is always the thing. But you know what? A lot of the software, I mean, it happens in video editing stuff. You know, something will, you know, you can lose power. It can crash, right? So, you know, just stay calm, and hopefully it can undo itself, and then it works out. But you know, and sometimes I gotta say, you know, working in different projects, that sometimes redoing it again, you do it faster and better even. So, you know, kind of take the lessons from it. It was a practice run, and you can do it again. So that's fun too.
Just sometimes you say, well, that's gone. I'll try it again, and it goes faster, and you learn from that first time you did it. So it's not the end of the world.
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah, let's. I'll just open up for Q&As. I have the Q&A portal. You can type in there. I've seen some chat questions here. So just wanted to, one of the first ones, I think people were asking about software. So you know, ProCreate software for iPad. Definitely the tools that the concepts, the principles, the techniques can be applied in other drawing apps as well, like, you know, in terms of, you know, pencil tools, brush tools, right? Layers, that's very standard, right? But I think the first question here, Jeff, I have for you is, what would you do? So just thinking back, before you put photos in as backgrounds, how would you do that before being able to place a photo? So let's answer that.
Oh, that's a very interesting question, because I was going to actually bring that up earlier on. I still have it. It's called a morgue, and it's basically my reference material for you know, if I wanted to do a cityscape, I had photos, magazine photos of old magazines clippings that I put in this morgue, which was basically a big scrapbook. And I still have it actually today, and I still refer to it occasionally. And I would just collect things that I thought I might use for a cartoon. And yeah, so that's what we did before. We would trace them, or I used to have a projector that I could put put on the top of the magazine and project it onto the wall, and then just trace it off the wall. So we had different tools then to use it, or I would just look at it and try to use my perspective training to try to reproduce it on the sheet as well. So on the, you know, I would use tracing paper, or something that I could use quickly and transfer quickly over to another application. So, and I was at the library, the Markdale Library. I got to know the librarian there very well, because I was constantly going there for reference material for comics and everything. So the library is a really good resource for reference as well. If you don't have, you know, which you do, fortunately. But I always found there was occasions when I was lacking something, and I had to go to a library, and great resources. We're very fortunate, and you are very fortunate to have those to refer to, and in many, including the training for these skills for the drawing and in creator, the creator space realm where you're learning right now. It's terrific resource to have at the libraries. And so I would say the library and a morgue, which is not too many artists have it now. I don't know of too many in the last 10, 15 years that have a morgue, but that was our reference area, our little private reference library, basically. And it was great because you would look at something and you'd say, oh, I could use that. I might use it for this application in my comic. So you could actually plan ahead and see what you might use for a future episode or a future strip. So yeah, I hope that answers that.
Jeff, I was going to ask just on that. I guess now you could technically have that kind of a morgue as a like digital folder, right? To like collect assets.
You bet. Oh, and there's so much material out there, and there was then too, but it wasn't as easy to, I go to the doctor's office and the dentist's office and ask for magazines they're throwing out, and that's how I built my morgue. But you're right, it's easy. You can go on to Google and you can Google images and just collect things that you think would be something that you could refer to. And it's easy now. I don't know if that's going to change. Like if I tell people this, maybe next week Google will make it impossible to to copy things. But for the time being, that's what I would do. Would be to collect this as much of a reference library as you could and have it handy to get at a second's notice. But as it is, I was able to collect the images that we did today fairly quickly off of Google, and it was just a matter of doing the work afterward. Getting the reference material was really the easy part, and doing the actual work and learning how to simplify it. That's where your blood, sweat, and tears will come in down the road as you do this.
Perfect. And Jeff, so I have a question here. What settings would you use for a sketching brush?
Well, I tend to use the sketching tool. The ProCreate pencil is the one I've been using for the drawing, especially, there's different ones, but I like a nice something with a tooth to it, and it's just from my experience as doing it on paper and on graphic board, and it just gives you, I don't know, I feel it gives me some dimension to it. And it's just a personal preference. I just like something with a bit of texture and a bit of tooth to it, is the term I use. And I don't know if that means anything to anybody out there or not. But because it has a bit of texture, it has a bit of depth to it. And it's just something that I feel comfortable using. Now, as far as the inking tools, they have a nice inking tool called Studio Pen, and it really gives a nice even solid line, and it's great to work with the Apple Pencil for my purposes, and it gives me a good clean line. And but for the sketching part, I would use something with a little more texture and tooth. It just looks nicer to me, and it feels good to use. So it's really personal preference and trial and error, and what you like to see at the end. So there's a lot of tools. I mean, your brush library and your pencil sketching library, your drawing library. There's the painting library. You could do whatever texture you want, really. It's just a matter of trying it and seeing what you like. So I would recommend you just mess around and see what works best for you.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Just another question here. Just in terms of the base photo, can you turn down the opacity of it? So if you wanted to, like have it in the background.
That's a good question. I'm going to try that. I think you could actually. Let's just click that and see if we can. Let's see opacity a bit here. Yes, you can actually. There is a tool here in ProCreate. Right now, this image is at max capacity, and you can just run down your slider, and you can take it down here, or you can just take it like a nice misty day here, and you could work with that, and that would let's have a look here. Yeah, so that works pretty good. That's actually a good suggestion. Thank you, but I didn't think of that at the time. But that's certainly something you can do for any of the images you draw too. Like I could do it for this one I drew too, and just do the same thing. Just take it down, and so that's not overpowering my final drawing, and I can use it as a as a reference for my final drawing.
Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. I wanted to just note too that so the reference materials, I think and Jeff mentioned about like Google and taking having the access and stuff. So just one thing too, like you're definitely drawing and referencing, and for educational purpose, it's great. But just think about on a commercial side, you'd want to make sure that you're then buying the photos like as a stock photo or having like the rights to the photo too. I just wanted to mention that on that kind of side. So if you took someone's photo from the internet, posted it, and then like presented it fully, right, and you're not drawing reimagining it yourself, that you could have a copyright thing. So just to always be aware of, or even maybe seeking out the rights. If you love a photo and you want to redraw it, you can always seek out the photographer and say, hey, I really love your photo. I'd like to make a drawing of it. So I think it's important, like Jeff is doing the references, right? But to have the photos totally replicated on a release or commercial side, or if you're going to sell the work, right? That kind of thing, right? So yeah. Jeff, next question, it kind of leads into what I was just talking about. Just some of your background. Someone just asking if you work in animation or cartoons. So maybe we can just talk just a bit briefly on that too.
Well, I mainly work in cartoons, comics. So I found that I like to simplify it as much as possible, and I find the background has to augment your story. It can't overpower your foreground. I think that's what a lot of cartoonists, where they get into problems, and that's what frustrates them about cartooning, is that they can let the backgrounds just overpower their cartoons. You can't even see the main figures. I remember when I started, that was a real issue. A lot of people were saying, well, I have to show that they're in a classroom, but I draw all these details in the classroom, and I lose my interest in the gag. And you can do that. That's a real problem. But in animation, of course, they have entire departments that would look after the layout in a cartoon, like in an animation project. So you have to in animation, you have to realize that you're not doing it, but the next person will be putting a character in there, and that they have to be able to act within the certain area. And in animation, we had the TV back then. This is just old memories coming back, but we had the TV cutoff, which was an area where you had to make sure your characters were within that area, the TV cutoff, so that otherwise there'd be heads cut off, and they'd be pointing and their hand would be outside this TV cutoff. And that was always a lot of fun, to the early days anyway, of my when I was in Teddy Ruxpin, trying to make sure I kept within that TV cutoff. And if I had nothing else up on my screen, I had the TV cutoff up, because it always played havoc with your acting if you didn't. So so you have different applications. As for me, now I'm doing a weekly cartoon where I don't really have any backgrounds in it at all. It's just the people in the foreground, and maybe something indicating something in the background, and just sort of like really there's no backgrounds in that particular feature, unless I have to have like an outdoor setting. We've had a few outdoor scenes where I quickly whipped up a little country outdoor scene out of my head, and it's just basically using the brush tools to make it look like trees and Priceville background. So so yeah, I found the backgrounds, if you keep it simple and you just kind of indicate where you are and make sure it's clear, where you are, and not necessarily slavishly detailed, it's better for the reader, and just have the pardon me, of the main detail on your foreground and on the characters. So
Perfect. Jeff, I just got one more question here in the Q&A. Going just back to the sketching brush, what kind of size would you use, like to sketch things in? What kind of would the average size?
well, I would make it fairly thick and have a nice texture to it. But yeah, that's something you can play with. You can play with the width, with the thickness there, with the thick brush tool there. And I would say to roughly do it, I would do it fairly. Yeah, I would use a thicker pencil and maybe a softer pencil, if that makes any sense to anybody, because it helps you get a looser line. And if you want to do detail work, just tighten your thickness tool, make it a little lighter, or sorry, not lighter, but make it a little smaller, so you can put in details. But if you're just trying to find the basic layout of it, it's nice to have a fairly soft texture and thicker, because it makes it looser, and it makes it, it I guess it just makes it simpler. That's what it comes down to every time. Keep it as simple as possible.
Perfect. Thanks, Jeff. Yeah. So that's all the time we have for this week's session. Thanks so much, Jeff. Really appreciate you exploring this, and I think that was really neat to also mention how what Jeff said is that here's backgrounds, and maybe you don't even need a background, and I think that's really interesting in cartoons that do you need it? Do you not need it? And I think the last one too, the Cityscape. That kind of idea when you get into the superhero or like that kind of Marvel universe, right, where you're getting into backgrounds are kind of important in that area. But yeah, really good to think about is do you need the background? So, but yeah, definitely. So thanks again, Jeff. And I just want to thank all our partners again in this project. So we have the Canada Council for the Arts, and then we have our library partners: Blue Mountains Public Library, Collingwood Public Library, Wasaga Beach Public Library. Thanks again for joining us. This will be available to rewatch right after we finish here on this link, so that will stay up. And we also post all of these on our YouTube channel. And coming up in April, April 10th is the first session. We're going to have a 4-part multi-week drawing masterclass with Jeff Wilson. So sign up for that. You can sign up for all 4 weeks, so it's best to get tickets for all 4 weeks. But the one ticket will give you access to all those. But if you sign up for all 4, you get the reminders so that you don't forget about the class. So definitely check that out. April 10th is the first one, Saturday. Next Saturday, if you want to have more of a discussion and you're a member of one of the library partners, click onto our Eventbrite links, and there's a meet the artist in a dedicated meeting room. So it's open for 10 people. And you can have a one-on-one discussion with Jeff and pick his brains on more of these concepts and tools and his knowledge. So we hope to see you next Saturday, same bat time, same bat channel, if you will. And yeah, we'll see you guys soon. Take care.